You know, Alexer, the business world is changing faster than ever, but if there's one thing that never changes, it's that money follows skill. It always has, and it always will. So today we're showing you the 10 timeless business skills that print money forever. But look, okay, the problem with most people is that they stop at being average. If you're watching this channel, that is not you, right? So we'll also show you what these skills look like at the highest level. Trust me, my friend, master these and you'll never have to worry about money again. Welcome to Alux, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. So, let's start off today with a handful of indispensable core business skills. And first up, the skill is strategy, which in business is the foundation for everything. The problem with the average business is that they confuse strategy with just having an idea. They'll say, I'll open a cafe, or I'll sell clothing, I'll build an app. But that's just picking something and hoping it works out, okay? One of the best examples of true strategy is Netflix. They started out making DVDs, but instead of clinging to that idea, they asked, where is the market going? That's when they switched from physical media to streaming. It was immensely successful, and when everyone else started streaming too, they had already created their own shows and movies, which turned them into one of the most powerful media companies on the planet. So that's what the skill of strategy really is, not just picking an idea, but choosing the right market to play in and, well, the right strategy to dominate it. That is the kind of thing that will never go out of fashion. All right, moving on. The next skill is all about figuring out how to position yourself in that market to stand out from your competition. And that's where the skill of innovation is indispensable. Most businesses think innovation means creating something the world has never seen before. And so they end up pouring years of effort into something that nobody asked for. On the other side of that coin, you've got Apple. You see, Apple didn't actually invent the MP3 player, the smartphone, or the tablet. But once people got their hands on an iPhone, every other smartphone looked outdated. And the same goes for the iPod, iPad, and the Mac computer. At the highest level, that's what innovation really means. It's not about dreaming up some wild invention. It's about making something that already works so much better than what's already out there that people have no choice but to notice it. Now, the next skill is marketing, okay? Because even if you have an incredible product, it won't matter if nobody knows about it. Most businesses treat marketing like shouting louder than anyone else. But that's average marketing, okay? It generates cheap attention and then fades into the background. If you want an example of world-class marketing, look no further than Nike, okay? When you see Michael Jordan, Serena Williams, or Cristiano Ronaldo in Nike gear, it associates their products with winning, performance, and excellence. Nike generates attention in a way that makes people care about its message. That's why Nike has some of the best marketing on the planet. Average marketing gets you seen, but exceptional marketing gets you chosen. And being able to do that is always going to matter. Now, marketing gets attention, yes, but obviously you need to be able to turn that attention into money. And that's why the next fundamental timeless skill of business is sales. Now, this one's a tricky one, and honestly, it gets a bit of a bad reputation because your mental image of the quote-unquote salesperson is probably a used car salesman trying to pressure you into paying way too much for a piece of junk that'll fall apart as soon as you drive off the lot. In reality, though, sales at an exceptional level doesn't even feel like selling. First of all, the process starts way before you ask someone for their credit card. The best businesses in the world offer natural solutions to real wants and needs that people have. So they're never in a position where they have to, scam anybody. At the highest level, the skill of sales is really just the skill of helping other people make the right decision. So forget about the sleazy car salesman and just think of sales as the bridge between creating value and capturing it. If you can master this, get to the point where you could literally sell ice to an Eskimo, that whole trope, then you will never have to worry about money again. But here's the thing, Alexer, knowing this stuff is only the first step. Every single one of these skills we're showing you today is honestly a world of its own. And if you actually want to use these skills in your life to get rich, Well, you have to do a little more than just understanding them. You need to master them. And that's where the ALUX app comes in. If you've ever wanted to take what you learn in videos like this and actually put it into action, listen up, okay? Inside the ALUX app, you'll find a massive library of courses designed to help you learn all the skills we've talked about, will talk about, and can't fit into this video. And this isn't just theory, okay? Every course is taught by an actual expert who has mastered each skill and knows exactly how to apply it in the real world to make millions of dollars. These people literally charge thousands of dollars for just an hour of their time to teach you this stuff, but you can get access to all of their insights for a tiny fraction of that. In fact, if you scan this QR code on screen or click the top link in the description to download the app, you'll get 25% off your yearly plan, and you can start learning today, okay? But let's keep this video rolling for now. So, those were the core skills of business: strategy, innovation, marketing, and sales. But look, okay, this isn't just about having a great product and selling the hell out of it. At the highest level, it's also about the softer skills, the more subtle things that don't show up on a balance sheet week to week, but actually do make the most of your money in the long run. So the next one we're talking about is negotiation. It's a fun one. And to show you what this looks like at the top of the game, one of the most interesting case studies is SpaceX, because they had some pretty unique challenges. So on the supply side, SpaceX had to buy parts and materials from companies that were used to charging outrageous prices to the US government. But Elon Musk refused to do that, so he negotiated those costs down, saving the company millions and proving that SpaceX could build rockets for a fraction of what NASA used to spend. And on the customer side, Musk had to negotiate billion-dollar contracts with the US government itself. So he convinced them to bet on a private space company, which was unheard of at that time, but SpaceX came out of it with the contracts that secured their survival. At the highest level of business, negotiation is one of the most important skills you can hone, because one bad deal can kill your company, but a fantastic deal can create massive value. That's why negotiation is a timeless skill. All right, skill number 6 is leadership, one of the most valuable on this list. Now, most people, when they get into any sort of leadership position, think it's all about giving orders, setting targets, and pushing for results. And while that might work in the short term, it creates a culture of fear and competition when, in reality, you'd want people to work together because they're on the same mission as you. Exceptional leaders do something different, okay? And to show you, look at Satya Nadella, the new CEO of Microsoft. So when he took over as CEO in 2014, the company was struggling with a toxic, ultra-corporate culture where internal politics ran rampant, and the business was slowing down because of it. So one of Nadella's first moves was shifting Microsoft from a know-it-all culture to a learn-it-all culture, where employees were encouraged to experiment and their managers were trained to coach them if they made mistakes, not criticize them. All of that didn't just make Microsoft nicer. No, it truly reinvigorated their people and made them one of the world's most valuable companies all over again. So that's what exceptional leadership actually looks like, okay? Not just being the guy giving orders, but being able to shape a culture that drives results in the long term. All right, moving on. The next skill on our list is system design. And this is one that often gets overlooked, but it's one of the most important skills when it comes to actually growing a business. System design is the skill of building the processes and routines that happen behind the scenes in your company. Think about everything from how orders are taken, to how your product gets made, to how your customers are served. The problem with the average business is, honestly, they just improvise their systems. Tasks get repeated, processes are messy, mistakes pile up, and before long it snowballs out of control. But if you want an example of system design at an exceptional level, look at McDonald's. Everyone knows them for being fast because inside the kitchen every single detail is designed to run like clockwork. But what you don't see is that McDonald's, as a company, also runs like a system. They've perfected franchising so they could take that same restaurant model and repeat it thousands of times across the globe. And on top of that, they've built ultra-efficient systems for supply chains, sourcing, distribution, and marketing, all working seamlessly at a global scale. That's why McDonald's, which at its core is really just a burger joint, became one of the most successful businesses in history. Because their systems are bulletproof. And that's the power of the skill of system design. When implemented right, it can turn any regular business into a scalable machine. All right, so the next skill on our list today is resource allocation. And this is one that most people don't even know about, but it's happening every single day. Resource allocation is the skill of directing your company's focus, money, and energy. So think about it, okay? A company has a product, marketing and sales, operations, and people working in it, which creates a ton of complexity. Great resource allocation is all about managing it well. So think knowing which departments to grow, which projects to fund, which people to hire, and where to double down so the whole company keeps moving forward. It's a tough skill, honestly. Most businesses waste time and money on the wrong thing, but by contrast, look at how Jeff Bezos handled Amazon. Even when the online store was already a huge success, he kept reinvesting in ideas that could fuel the company's long-term growth. The best example is Amazon Web Services, its cloud computing division. What started out as a small side project is now by far the most profitable part of the entire company, all because Bezos spotted its potential and directed resources toward it. That's what the skill of resource allocation really is, being able to identify what the most important thing is and then pouring the right time, money, and energy into it. All right, so moving on, let's talk about timing. That's the next skill on our list, and most people don't even think of it as a skill, but it absolutely is. Timing is the skill of making the right move at the right time. A lot of entrepreneurs come up with brilliant ideas that should work in theory, but the world just isn't ready for them. And the perfect example of this is Vine. They were the first platform to focus on short-form vertical video, the exact thing billions of people now consume every single day. But at the time, smartphones weren't powerful enough, internet speeds were too slow, and there wasn't an ecosystem of creators to sustain it. Vine was simply too early, ahead of its time. But years later, TikTok launched with pretty much the same idea, but at the right moment. Phones had better cameras, internet connections were better, and content creators were everywhere. The timing was perfect, and that's what allowed TikTok to explode into one of the most dominant social media platforms in the world. The difference between Vine and TikTok was not the idea, it was timing. And that's why timing is such a timeless skill in business, because even the best idea in the world will fail if the world isn't ready for it yet. All right, now on to our 10th skill today. It is networking. Now, most people overlook this because they think a good idea and some hustle are enough to build a business, but the truth is, in this journey, you'll need people to help you solve problems you don't know how to solve. You know, suppliers, manufacturers, strategic partners. You can't survive in business without a network. One example of someone who has mastered this skill is Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. So people who know Sam have said that if you dropped him on an island filled with savages, you would come back a month later and he'd be running the place. Basically, he's got an exceptional ability to build relationships with exceptional people. That's sort of how OpenAI started, with a world-class team of brilliant minds who wanted to build AI. And now look at where they've gotten, okay? They've changed the world. That is the power of networking. Tools will change, industries will evolve, but the ability to build relationships with the right people has always been and will always be one of the most timeless business skills. Okay, Luxor, we've covered a lot of skills here today, but we feel like we've got to give you one more bonus skill here because honestly, executing all of these skills at a high level is really just the price of survival. The thing is, my friend, the economy is competitive, okay? Every serious company has good products, talented people, solid marketing budgets, and innovative ideas, which means that if you're selling something, there's a pretty good chance someone else at your level is selling it too. So how do you truly stand out for the long term? Well, that's where the skill of branding comes in. And we're not talking about a logo or a catchy slogan here, okay? That's not branding, that is decoration. Real branding goes a lot deeper than that. At its essence, branding is the sum total of every interaction a customer has with your business, the entire experience. And nobody has mastered this better than Apple. Their Think Different campaign made customers feel like they were a part of a movement. Walk into any Apple store and every detail is designed to pull you in. The staff is extremely helpful and friendly, and when you get a new product, unboxing it feels like an event. When you use it, it just works, and it works beautifully. The point is,